basic questions. How many years have you served in the fire department?
Started back July 1st, today, 1986. So, yeah.
And another question. How many firefighters does the fire department currently have?
We have approximately 55. It fluctuates. Some guys leave. We put some different new members on. It's unfortunately it's not all the time, but usually throughout the year we lose one or two. Either they get married, they move out of town for work-related issues, and then next thing you know, somebody shows up at the door. They're looking to volunteer, and so currently we're at about 55 volunteers.
And second question. Are wildfires being considered a major issue for the town currently as summer's approaching full swing?
No, to be honest with you, I don't consider wildfires. Unfortunately, the incident we had last year was an anomaly. I'm hoping we haven't had in my 39 years leading up to that fire, we hadn't had anything like that. We've had brush fires in the past where we might have an acre or two burn. But that was something, and the reason it got so big is because it was in an area that was inaccessible. But in general, no, wildfires in this part of North Jersey are not considered major issues, and if they are, we do call in our New Jersey Wildfire Service.
Mm-hmm. So similarly, if something like what happened last year were to happen again, does the fire department have all the resources it needs to fight another wildfire?
Yes, I believe we do. We have locally, we have our department, and we use our immediate mutual aid, which is our surrounding towns. They would come in, and then as the incident escalates in size and starts to spread, we start to go to the outer, we go to our Essex County Fire Mutual Aid System, which would bring in resources throughout Essex County. And if we needed to, we can hit Morris County, any other counties, and we could also go to the state, as I said, we go to the state.
So you answered another question I was going to ask, which was what other organizations or like towns do you collaborate with for wildfires?
Well, we work closely. Not so much because we're more into the structural fires, house fires, car fires, motor vehicle accidents. Those are our day-to-day bread and butter. Wildfires are really. We respond to brush fires. Somebody throws a cigarette out on Route 280, it ignites some of the brush. We get up there, we might have a 100 by 50-foot area burning. We wet it down and we move on. The wildfires, like you see on the news, where the whole side of the mountain's burning, we don't have that kind of issue. We did have last year, as you know, back in October. We had 192 acres burned, but again, it's in an area. It's because it was in an area where we couldn't physically get trucks back there to put the fire out. So what we did is perimeter protection. So we pretty much surrounded the entire area where it can only burn from. If you're familiar with the area, it was up by Staples, up by the ball field on Oakner Parkway. It can only burn. If it burns west, it would go to the Passaic River and stop. If it burns east, as far as it's going to go, unless it was to jump the road, would be Eisenhower Parkway. It would burn to the back of the buildings, like where Staples sits, and that's where we had resources, and we put the fire out coming towards the building. And so the only other way it would burn, which did burn, was towards Nalon Avenue, and we also had resources up by the sewage treatment plant and all those commercial buildings there. And we protected the buildings and the roofs. We're concerned about embers flying on the roofs and catching the rubber roofs on fire. We had out-of-town resources from throughout Essex County protecting those for us. So once the majority of the rim of the fire had burned down, it starts to burn in. And at that point, there's nothing there. There's just, whatever combustible materials, woods, grass, stuff like that to burn. And as the Forest Fire Service said to us, it's technically it wouldn't be considered under control until it's 100%.
100% burn?
100% out, extinguished, and that would need significant rain. And it did take a couple weeks to have significant rain, enough to saturate the ground and all the smoldering logs and stuff that were just, the fire had rolled over, ignited, and they burned, and then they just smoldered until they were actually soaked in water through natural rain.
And you mentioned this area was the reason the fire grew a lot because this area was difficult to access. Are there any other areas within Livingston that could face this issue?
Yeah, we have the water reserve off of South Orange Avenue. New Jersey American Water Reserve is a big wooded area on both sides of both Livingston, and it goes into Millburn, and all that area going up towards the Short Hills Mall, which is in Millburn, but again, that's all part of the same water reserve. So those areas, there are chances of that, burning, but it would have to be an intentionally set act, meaning an arson, or it would have to be something like an electrical line, which we believe that was started due to an electrical overhead wire issue. We don't believe it was, and that's from one of the gentlemen at the power company.
And what do you think that citizens of Livingston can do to help reduce the likelihood of more wildfires or brush fires happening?
Just be vigilant. Vigilant, when I say vigilant, I mean if you are a smoker, which you shouldn't be because it's not good for you, properly discarding cigarettes. If you're out in the woods or park areas and you're using charcoal stoves, don't just, when you're done because you want to go home, pour it on the side of the grass or in the woods. Make sure that it's fully extinguished with water. In general, at home, just flame producing devices. People like to use candles. In a few days we're going to have 4th of July, so I know people tend to use the illegal versions of the fireworks where they shoot mortars and stuff like that. If a flame or an ember lands in the woods, if you're using it carelessly, you're increasing the chances of wildfires, brush fires, wildfires. And with Livingston, with the density that we have, depending on how big the fire gets, you could threaten structures.
Yeah,
So.
I see. I know in Boy Scouts we're very big on fire safety. When we're out camping and we have fires, we always have someone watching the fire, and we always have a bucket on hand to extinguish the fire if it gets out of hand. And you always wait until the very last ember is fully burned before anyone leaves the fire.
Yes, you should be. The fire should always be attended by somebody. You don't have to be standing on top of it, but just be in the general vicinity, know what's going on, keep an eye on it, have an emergency extinguishment, whether it be a bucket of water and a fire extinguisher. But walking away from something and something smoldering, and next thing you know, the wind kicks up, picks up the embers, and they land 20 feet away, and next thing you know, that starts a fire. And wind-driven fires actually can escalate pretty quickly.
Yeah. And another question I had, you already partially talked about this, but if there were another similar fire, what are the exact steps that the fire department would go through, or what are some of the most biggest methods that the fire department would use to fight the fire?
Well, lessons learned in the from the wildfire of 24. Firefighters are trained to react to a situation, go towards the danger. So we're chasing the fire. We did learn with wildfires, and we learned this from the New Jersey Forest Fire Service, that our job as municipal firefighters is for basically structure protection and life and property. If something's burning back in the woods, our thing was to stretch lines a couple 100 feet into the woods to try to knock the fire down. They said, let it go, let it burn out, it'll burn out. So I guess tactically, we learned to basically hang back a little. If it's burning and the flames are 50 foot high in the air, 100 foot high in the middle of the field, don't worry about it. It's not, it's not threatening any homes or any
so
buildings.
The idea is just to make sure it doesn't hurt any
Yeah,
homes
just
or anything
basically,
like
establish a perimeter with your firefighters, establish your safe zone, and work on the perimeter and make sure that the fire doesn't advance towards.
So it's more about guarding the fire and not fighting the fire.
Yeah, with wildfires, yes. What you see on the TV with airdrops and stuff out in Idaho and Montana where they're doing this stuff, they know what they're doing, and they know they're drop in certain strategic areas. On the Sunday morning of a wildfire, I actually had an opportunity to go up in a helicopter with the New Jersey Forest Fire Service. And we did an aerial view, a perimeter check with the guys from, I was a guest, that they were doing their flyover. And they were looking for hot spots, and they know which areas they have to hit. So they wound up doing 7 aerial drops with the water like you see on the news on strategic areas. Because, yeah, for us as municipal firefighters is to property protection. We'd have to establish lines and get master deck guns and master streams in service on buildings such as Staples and stuff like that if it was really raging towards it. Other than that, if it's burning out under the power lines, let it go.
And I think that's all of the questions I have for now. Do you have anything else you'd like to add? Any information?
No, just the fact that I was a Boy Scout with Troop 16 back probably in the early 80s. And I appreciate what you guys do, and I like the fact that kids are still community oriented and working towards an achievement. I remember the badges, and I appreciate you coming in, and I wish you the best of luck. So,
Thank
all right.
you so much.
No problem.